Got the knock on the door and it was FBI agents
Yeah.
like at your house.
Yeah. Agent Saxey and Agent Denning. They're looking at indicting me. I felt complete impending doom. I have my littlest baby, my 3-month-old baby in my arms at that point, and my husband is scared, so he just goes white. It was the most sickening feeling. I do remember them looking at Chad and saying, she's going to go to prison.
Today's guest is a woman whose story will shake you to your core. She's not just a speaker, not just an author. She is living, breathing redemption in its rawest form. Portia Louder was once a successful photographer and real estate investor living the American dream until a series of choices led her into a dark world of white-collar crime, a courtroom, and eventually federal prison. But what came next is what truly defines her. Behind bars, Portia found her purpose. She stared down her past, reclaimed her identity, and emerged with a mission to serve others, to share her truth, and to become a voice for the voiceless, especially the women forgotten in our prison system. She's a fierce advocate, a powerful storyteller, and living proof that rock bottom is not the end, it can be the beginning. Portia, welcome to the Maxed Out Podcast. How are you today?
I'm good. Thanks for having me, Todd.
I can't say fresh out of federal prison, but it probably seems fresh out of federal prison in your mind, I would imagine. But that's not where the story starts. I mean, your story starts many years before that, back in Utah.
Yep.
And for maybe some of the people that haven't met you before, you didn't have like some crazy upbringing. Like you lived with a good family and a middle class family in Utah.
Yep.
Mom and dad seemed like good people. They had some real estate investments, decent jobs. So it seems like you had a good childhood, like you had a good upbringing, but your teenage years weren't always rosy, were they? Like when was things kind of like a little rocky for you during the teenage years?
Well, I was the oldest of 7 kids, and with that many kids, I think I became kind of a leader pretty early. And so by the time I was 13, there was nothing my parents could do to try to stop me from doing what I wanted to do, which was party and be around boys pretty much. So by the time I was 17, I was pregnant with my first kid and moved out and moved into low income housing and got married. That didn't work out. And my parents moved to Salt Lake City. So I grew up in a small town. A lot of fun playing outside, riding horses, doing all fun things. And then they moved to the city when I was 20 years old.
So from all accounts, like teenage years would be what some kids would dream of, like
Yeah.
with a good family and a good home and in a nice state and a nice city with all the things. So was there something that happened during those teenage years that kind of caused you to go down a different track than maybe what your family had planned for you?
I was super stubborn from the time I was young, and very determined to do exactly what I wanted to do. And also, my mom just didn't believe any rules or boundaries. Like we had none of that in our home, which is okay. It
So
just
parents weren't strict at all.
well, my dad was a Vietnam vet, so my dad believed in structure and rules, but he was really busy. My parents were entrepreneurs and they invested in real estate as well. And so my dad, I mean, 7 kids, it's a lot to support. So he had
Sure.
a regular job, a side hustle, and we had animals. And so he was just busy working. And my mom was basically a stay-at-home mom.
Now,
And
your family was your family fairly religious when you were growing up? Were they practicing at that time?
we were members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, which is a pretty strict religion. But again, my mom didn't believe in rules, so we
Yeah.
didn't really fit in that well. And by the time I was 13, I told my parents, I'm done with that. I'm not going to do that anymore. So I quit going to church when I was young. And I would say, the religion teaches not to date until you're 16. You don't drink alcohol, coffee, those types of things. And I pretty much did all of those things.
Yeah.
So,
So
yeah.
baby at 17. How old were you, 17 or 18 when you got married?
I was 17 and ended up, by the time I was 21 years old, I was a single mother with 2 children.
Yeah.
So
So we've talked a little bit before we started filming today. We've dug into the addiction a little bit. When was the first time that you kind of started experiencing with drugs, whatever they were,
yeah.
however big or however small?
So I remember after, as a single mother with 2 kids, I still had this thing for relationships. So I would get in and out of these relationships. And I remember getting in a relationship. My son was like, so I'm going to have a dad. I think he was probably about 5 and my daughter was 2. And the relationship ended. And my son asked me, I was leaving the apartment, had my stuff packed up. And my son said, Mom, when will I get to have a dad that I get to keep? You know?
Yeah.
And I had a prescription bottle for Percocet, and I drank and did those types of things. But I remember going home that night, and I took a pain pill, and it made it feel better. And from that point on, I was using pain pills. I also ended up finding out that I was pregnant with my third child and choosing adoption. I was able to get sober for a while. And then when he was born, it got a lot worse. I placed him, and my addiction went from prescription drugs to street drugs, and I was using methamphetamine.
Yeah.
So,
Now, how did you get introduced to methamphetamine? Were you also running with like the wrong crowds, or?
not really. My parents, my mom was the compassionate one. And so we had a cousin who had been kicked out of his home. He'd been in and out of jail. And my mom let him come stay with us. And he had methamphetamine. And I tried it for the first time. And as soon as I tried it, I was like, oh, that makes me feel better. And I was off to the races.
Yeah. Now, were you doing any type of work at this point? When you
I had
were,
a job as a photographer. But as soon as I started using meth, I lost everything. I lost the job. I was on the streets. My parents were taking care of my kids, and things just really, really bad for a while.
how was that relationship with your parents during this time?
My dad was really frustrated. I remember my dad telling me, you're probably going to die and you're going to have to figure this out on your own.
Yeah.
That's just my dad. Like, you get it together or I can't keep going down this path. But my mother was, she would never give up. Neither of my parents would give up on their kids, but my mom was raising my kids. They had some family friends say, you should probably kick her out and take custody of those kids. And my mom's like, I can't do that. She'll have nothing to fight for. If I take the kids, she'll have nothing to fight for. And what finally turned things around for me, I came home late one night and I'd been out partying all night using meth. And when I walked in the house, my son, who was 8 years old at this point, was standing there by my mom waiting for me, and he was crying. He'd been waiting for hours for me. And my mom looked at me and said, I can't imagine what it would take for you to change your life. But if this little boy isn't enough for you, nothing ever would be, Portia. And that night I walked downstairs and I laid on the floor and I just sobbed. I just said, please. I mean, I really wasn't religious or didn't believe in any kind of a higher power, but I was like begging whatever God there was to help me become a decent person. I just felt like I knew better. I had good parents. And my little boy, he's like, Mom, don't be so sad. Mom, it's okay. And I'm like, no, Jace, it's not okay. Like, I'm such an ugly person. And he's like, no, Mom, you're beautiful. Come look in the mirror, Mom, come see. And so that night I made a decision that I would go to any length to get sober. And the next day I went upstairs and I said, Dad, I need help. I don't know what to do. And he's like, yeah, go across the street, talk to him. He might be able to help you.
Yeah.
He's just like, I'm done. And so I went over and talked to my parents' religious counselor and just said, I'm a drug addict. I don't know what to do. And he was so cool because he was honest with me. And that's something that I've learned to be grateful for. He said, Portia, I can help you, but you're extremely selfish. You might be the most selfish person I've ever met. He's like, you're going to have to learn how to live a principle-centered life if you want your life to change.
Yeah.
And I listened to him. And I got sober, and I thought that would be the hardest thing I would ever have to do, which it wasn't. Don't ever say that because things can always get harder. But
There's always
something. Yeah, things can always get harder. But I got sober. I fought my way out of that. I went to 12-step meetings and started showing up for my kids, keeping my word, and learned how to live a principle-centered life. And ended up meeting my husband, who I'm married to now. And that definitely wasn't on the list of things for me. Like, I pretty much knew I sucked at picking men. And so I have no idea how I tricked him into marrying me, honestly, still. He's a great guy.
You bamboozled him, man. Like, you women. Like, Miles, you've been there, haven't you? Man, these women are tricky, bro.
I asked him, I'm like, so why would you date me? The first date we went on, I said, Chad, what scares you the most about me? And he's like, Portia, everything about you scares me, which is so legit because at that point in my life. But yeah, we fell in love. We got married. He adopted my kids. And wouldn't it be cool if that was the happily ever after story?
But it's not, and we all know that's not. But like, going back to what got you to that mindset where you want to be sober, I think one of the things that's like incredibly powerful is, at least for me, and I think a lot of kids, the thing that kids fear the most is disappointing their mom and dad, right? But what we don't talk about enough, and I found this because look, I've always been an athlete, I've always been an alpha male, like I'm the tough guy, like don't cry.
Right.
But when I had kids, everything makes me cry now. Like, I can't watch movies, I can't, like,
Yeah.
I was talking to one of the parents from my baseball team that I coach yesterday, and I told him that I only wanted to coach one more year of travel ball because I wanted to turn my 13-year over to another coach so that I could sit back and enjoy being a dad.
Right.
I started crying, right? Like it makes us soft. And I think, what I've learned from some of those experiences and how kids have made me feel, it's also very hard for parents to feel like they've disappointed their kids.
Oh, yeah.
So it doesn't surprise me that that moment was, it didn't take you, getting raped or robbed in the streets or
Right.
getting shot or, almost dying from something like crazy. It took your child being disappointed in you.
Yeah. It took my child hurting. It took my child deserving better for me. And I have a lot of compassion for women that hurt their kids, even though I know most people would say a woman that hurts her kids is the worst, right? But I'm a woman that hurt my kids.
Yeah.
And so I also know how deep that pain is. And it's something to fight for to make things right. So.
All right. So you pull the wool over this guy's eyes and trick him into marrying you, which look, I'm sure he's like a lot of guys. Like sometimes you just know, like sometimes you just click.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna be honest with you. The crazy that is in some females is what really attracts a lot of us guys, right? Because it's like you don't always want something that right? Like you want something that's a little curious. You want something that's a little suspicious, something that is like maybe that's out there. But I don't think Chad knew exactly what he was getting into.
No, he didn't.
And at some point, and we're going to come back to it, but at some point, the FBI is knocking on your door, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. He didn't sign up for that when we got married. I think I remember we met with this counselor that was trying to help me get sober. And Chad said, she's amazing. I just don't know that she can stay that way. Like, that's the fear I have, is that will she fall off? And of course, I'm like, yeah, you have no idea. I'm at that point, I'm trying to prove myself.
So when you and Chad got together, were you still using? You were still
No, I was sober, but he knew my history.
Okay.
Like, he knew where I'd been.
Gotcha.
And that was scary for him, which is understandable,
Sure.
right? Like, I mean, Chad had just graduated college. I have 2 children. I'm a single mother. I just placed a child for adoption. I've struggled with addiction. So I'm not the picture of, like, my history doesn't look so good, right?
Yeah.
And I believed that I could do it. And I did for a while. I had 5 years clean when I relapsed, which led to disaster. But what I did after Chad and I got married is what I always do. I had 2 more kids. I just have kids.
Yeah.
I have a lot of kids. So.
You little baby maker, you.
Seriously. I get lots of comments on social media like, don't you understand? I'm like, come on,
Yeah.
I've tried one time to get pregnant. So
For sure.
yeah. But anyway, we had one that we planned on, and then 18 months later we had another. And when I'm sober and I'm working hard, my life gets beautiful. And I was grinding. I started my own photography business. It grew like crazy. I was photographing about 200 weddings a year, which is a lot if you're a photographer. If you're a videographer, Miles, right? It's a lot. I was shooting engagements and bridals, and I had employees, and my company's just exploded in Utah. And with these 2 kids, I have nannies that are taking care of my kids, and my parents had invested in real estate. I decided to build a house to accommodate the studio, and I ended up having back surgery and relapsing.
Yeah. And when you relapse, was it back on to like Percocets
Opiates.
or,
Yep.
opiates?
Started with just pain pills. It started with pain pills. And for a while, I'm just getting the prescriptions from doctors, and I'm not getting honest with Chad about what's going on. And I'm thinking, well, I'm not on the street. I'm not using methamphetamine. I'm not, I've got it together. I've got these kids. I need it to keep going. I'm working really hard. And then I come up with the bright idea that if I just invest in real estate, I won't have to work so hard.
Yeah. Now, what made you think about real estate? Was it because of your parents that invested in a little bit of real estate? Did you listen to like Carlton Sheets late night videos or?
No. I mean, in 2005, the market was exploding. So I bought a lot to build a house, and the lots behind my neighborhood were bumping up so fast that I actually thought, okay, I'm going to go put another one under contract and make a little money flipping the lot.
Yeah.
Which makes perfect sense, right? So I went and did that, and my husband flips out. I think I put $2,500 down on earnest money, and he's like, you're going to lose that money. So I went and got the money back, and the lot doubled in value. It went from 70 to 140 grand.
Oh, that burned you up. Didn't it?
Yeah. And I was like, don't ever tell me what to do again. So I went and put several lots under contract, ended up with a whole development under contract.
Hold on, let's stop. So Chad makes you get your $2,500 back on one lot.
Right.
and you say, nah, screw it. I'm going to go get several lots.
Yeah.
How'd
Well, I
that,
got the 2,500 back and I lost that money.
but how'd that go over? Like, how'd Chad take that when you come back with several lots in our contract?
Well, what happened was I said, I'm taking a home equity line of credit against our house. He wasn't super happy about that,
Yeah.
but he just saw that the lot that I was going to buy doubled in value and we would have made 70
So he was
grand
able
on
to
it.
see kind of like the
He
proof
was
in the
able to
pudding.
see,
And,
yeah, he's
and
like,
he's probably
well,
like, damn it, I shouldn't have told you to take that back.
right. There was
Okay,
kind
I
of
gotcha.
that.
So he's buying in at this point, like, okay, maybe you had a good idea.
Right. Yeah. So kind of, I mean, he's still pretty conservative and he's watching me do my thing and I'm working way too much. And I think that so I sold a few lots and made like $30,000 a pop. So at that point, I mean, I've got some credibility too.
Yeah.
And
So you weren't always a mortgage fraudster.
not
Like
always.
you started legit in
Yeah,
real estate.
absolutely.
And when you started, it was just to be able to, I'm hearing from you, maybe slow the grind down a little bit with photography and be able to provide a good life for your family. So all your intentions were right at the beginning and you were legit at the beginning.
Right.
What changed?
Well, when I put that whole development under contract, I did it with hard money, and you're familiar with hard money. It costs about a point a week. So I think I had all of our money tied up, all the money that I'd made tied up, and a couple of other friends had home equity lines of credit tied up as down payment. I have a hard money lender that's charging me, I think it was between 30 and 50,000 a week.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get these lots into construction loans because I think, okay, well, we'll build houses and sell them, and then once we get the land wrapped up in a construction loan, we won't have to make payments, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's a lot. It was hard to get a construction loan. It's a lot
Construction
easier.
loans are tough.
They're really tough. I didn't know
And-
that. Like
and
I
they're
just
full,
was
they're
blind.
full doc loans.
Right.
Like even at
Right.
that time,
You
during
could
that
get
time where you did like,
stated income. You
loans
can't
and-
do it with a construction
Yeah,
loan.
construction loan, you couldn't do that.
Right.
But what I hear from you is like what I see from a lot of real estate investors, because I mentor a lot of real estate investors, right? But like, and we all do the same thing. We start a little small, we start having success, then we get addicted to like the success that we're having, and we start doing bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger,
Right.
and eventually it snowballs. And if you're not careful, it gets out of control. But do you think if you would have just kept flipping lots that
Oh, yeah.
you've been all right? I mean, it
mean,
sounds like
I've-
you're doing pretty good with that, right?
Yeah. Looking back, I'm like, I could have kept flipping lots. I think we had just built what was my dream home at the time, and I think it was like 350,000. I could have paid off the house.
Yeah.
I could have slowed down. I mean, but I do think my addiction was fueling that too, because when I like to hustle.
Mhm.
So like the excitement of the hustle, I'm going to make more money, and people are watching me do it, and hey, we want to give you our money too, and so it was kind of a perfect storm. So my name's Portia, and it's pretty unusual. And in Utah, there was another Portia also investing in real estate, which is really strange. And I have two guys hit me up and ask me if I'll lend them money. She was a hard money lender. When we meet, they show me this equity deal that they want to buy, which was a $5 million house.
I hear you frame it like that all the time. This equity
Equity deal.
Like it sounds so eloquent.
I-
But like it's
I know.
okay. I'll let you call it an equity deal.
Right. It's an equity deal. So it's a house that appraises at $5 million and you can buy it for 2.5. And I'm thinking, that sounds real. And he goes, and you can get a bunch of cash back on it. And I'm thinking, I need the cash back. I need to pay my, monthly hard money payments. Okay, let's go. And at first it was confusing to me. I remember telling Chad, I was like, why would you over borrow on a property? Like, why would I want to have a bunch of debt? Why wouldn't you just sell the property for $3 million, buy it at 2.5 and sell it at 3?
Yeah.
Like if there's equity in it, right? But they started explaining it's not that kind of equity.
But were these guys, when they approached you, were they wanting you to be the buyer?
Initially, they were just looking for hard money for a buyer.
Okay.
Like they were trying to find a buyer, and then they're like,
They were
well,
just trying to
I'm
source
not.
funds.
Yeah,
and they
I'm
thought
not
you
the
were
hard
broker.
money
Okay.
lender, but maybe I would be the buyer. Is kind of how they presented
Gotcha.
it. Like if you're not the money person. So what I did is I went and found a hard money lender to partner with me, and we bought it.
Yeah.
And
Now,
we couldn't get a loan on it.
Okay. So on this
Now I'm
first
stuck in that in hard money too.
first deal though, did you know it was shady the first deal as you're talking to these guys?
No, I think that what I felt told me not to do it. Like
Yeah.
I didn't think it was illegal for sure. I didn't really understand it, but it just didn't logically feel right. Like why? I shouldn't even say that because I hadn't gotten a loan on it or anything. I feel like it was aggressive.
Yeah.
It was risky.
Almost like the too good to be true feeling that we have with a lot of
feeling.
things.
Yeah.
So, okay, so first deal, you're the buyer.
Hmm.
You get a hard money lender that's going to lend you half the purchase price or whatever
Right.
it is.
Right.
You guys basically exaggerate the purchase price on paper so that when it comes time, you can, this day and age, everybody calls it BRRRR, right? Like the whole BRRRR strategy, which happens every single day. All the investors do it, buy, rent, or buy, rehab, refinance, rent, all that good stuff. And that's basically what you guys are doing.
Right.
But were you able to successfully refinance that, or did you
No,
struggle
we
getting
got
a loan?
stuck in hard money because anything over $3 million, and I don't even know what the deal is now, but at that point it was a jumbo loan.
Yeah.
And you're going to only get 60% if you can get it done. And you need full docs. So it wasn't like I could just give them, like at the time, they were doing no income, no asset loans or stated income loans, not a $5 million loan. They're not doing stated income.
Right.
And they're not going to lend 80%. So there's no cash back. So now we're stuck paying 20 grand a month for this house.
Yeah. There's a
And
lot that goes into refinancing that people don't think about.
yeah,
Um,
we learned that though. That's what I
yeah.
learned as I went. I was like, oh, it has to be under 3 million and it has to be structured right out the gate so that they'll refinance it. And we were actually working with the bank, like them telling us what they needed. So
Mhm.
they were aware of what I was looking to do. So once we did that deal, I went, all right, I'm learning. Now what I need to do is just lock up a bunch of houses that are under $3 million and put it together right. And there were investors like crazy trying to do them. So they would come to me and we started closing houses in hard money. So there were comps in the neighborhoods that we were closing them. And it just became kind of a thing, a
All right.
big
Let's
thing.
stick on this first deal real quick. The guys that initially approached you, what was their play? Like, what were they? Was it they were just trying to sell this house,
Right. They were just looking to make like $500,000 or something on it. They
but they
probably,
could have sold it and made that, right?
yeah, I guess not. I mean, if they had it sold, we became the buyer. They were just looking for, I mean, they probably locked it up for 2 and sold it to us for 2.5 and they did make their money on it. We just
Okay.
became
So
the
were they
buyer.
wholesaling? Like they were at that point? I'm just trying to figure out what their play is. I've
So,
never really
so this
understood
house
that.
was a funky house.
Okay.
It was way overbuilt for the neighborhood. It was somebody that bought it that was into network marketing. It had all the square footage and it was in the right location, but it was really weird. It was like
Gotcha.
built just for this guy. So nobody's going to pay $5 million, but it appraises for $5 million.
Sure.
So it just wasn't the kind of house he couldn't sell it. So he's like, find a way to get me this amount. And they went, we have a way. We'll get a high appraisal. We'll find a buyer and we'll make our cut.
Yeah. Okay. So they're struggling selling a house, so they come up with the equity deal to incentivize somebody to buy it, right?
Right.
At a price that whatever it was, 2.5 million is what they really wanted for it,
Right.
but they weren't going to be able to get that on the market. But bringing somebody like you in, you're like, oh,
With a high appraisal.
I can cash out. Okay, I
Right.
gotcha. Okay. So on the first house though, how were you able to get? Because you didn't have to appraise it through your hard money lender, right? Like there's no appraisal at the beginning because you're bringing in cash and a hard money lender. Did he require an appraisal?
I don't remember. I believe, so actually I do. My partner was the hard money lender on this case.
Okay.
Like we kind of went in on it together.
Okay. So you don't have to do the initial appraisal,
Right.
but
No, they had the appraisal. They already had the initial appraisal.
so how'd they get a high appraisal? I'm trying to peel back the onion and figure out where it really started because it didn't start with you.
No, it didn't start with
So
me.
like, where did it start? Like,
Started
how did
with
they
these
get
two
it?
guys. Yeah. Paul Carr and Blake Osborne. If you're out there, shout out, friends. I did prison time. But yeah, we'll have to send it their way.
So they
Because
had
the
done
feds weren't interested in them. They were interested
they had done
in
other deals before you like this
Yes.
though.
They
Okay.
they were masters at equity deals.
So that was their play. They had already done this thing. Like,
Yeah.
I get it. Okay, move on.
Right.
So you struggle getting this thing cash out refinanced,
Mhm.
obviously because of the size of the loan, and
Right.
you don't have to go full doc. What were you ever able to get this refinanced?
No, we never got that thing.
So you got
refinanced.
stuck with this. You're
We were
stuck with a
stu-
mortgage payment.
Yeah. Well, we were, my hard money lender partner was stuck with all of his money in it. And eventually he went and found somebody else to lend to get his money back. And then I think that person had to foreclose. Like, I think it was just a disaster.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
All right, but you weren't. So you're not. You didn't have great success with this one, but you didn't want to fail, right? Like I can tell that's your personality. You don't want to fail. You're
I
like,
didn't
"All
want
right,
to fail.
I can figure
And
this out."
I'm also, keep in mind, all these lots that I have in this subdivision, still the construction loans aren't happening and it's ticking away. I'm upside down. I got to come up with a way to make money. And they just showed me a way to make money, but it didn't work out. So I go to a mortgage broker. The mortgage broker that was trying to help us get the loan, he's like, this could have been done if it would have been done different.
Yeah.
So the mortgage company was a big part of it. We sat down and structured this so that it would actually close and then went out and found houses that would close. and
Sure.
locked them up.
I think that's a lot of times people don't understand that about mortgage brokers, right? Is they oftentimes will give us a roadmap.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now they're
They
not,
mapped it all out in their office.
yeah, like, and
Yeah,
they're saying, well, if, hypothetically, if the deal looked like this, and this,
right.
and they know what they're doing.
Oh,
They know
absolutely.
exactly
Yeah,
what
they
they're
knew a
doing.
lot more than I did.
Yeah, and
Right,
banks were shady back then anyway. Like, I mean, there was a
right.
lot of shady banks back at that time. I wasn't in real estate at that time, but I've done a ton of research on it.
Yeah,
And you can't do the same things today that
you
that you
can't.
could back then.
Yeah, because people are like, you have to show this and that. I mean, literally, we would, this mortgage company, we mapped it all out. And then they said, what we'll do is we'll send all the numbers over to the mortgage or to the bank, which was like ABC and Washington Mutual. And we'll tell them, you're buying it for this, it appraises at this. And then we'll ahead of time know how much cash we'll get back. So, like, they had the whole number sheet.
Yeah.
And then they would sometimes come back with even more money and say, yeah, we'll lend you more.
Hmm.
So everybody was aware of it. It turns out it's illegal because I did serve 5 years in federal prison.
But at the time, you didn't think it was,
I
right?
didn't think it was, no.
No. You knew it probably wasn't right,
Yeah,
but you didn't think, man, this is mortgage fraud or,
no.
whatever. And a lot of people don't. And we're going to break down kind of how you did and how you set these up, because I think it's very, very confusing. Even like, I'm a savvy
It's
investor,
confusing for me, and I did
Yeah.
it. So,
but it takes me a couple minutes. Even when we were talking last night, it took me a few minutes to understand, like, okay, I get it. Here's how it happened.
yeah,
But I woke up in the middle of the night last night and I was thinking about your story, and I'm like, like, this happens every day, every single day, very easily, that people don't think it does. And I'll give you a great example. You tell me if you think I'm right. The difference is you did millions, but the buyer comes to us. We have a house listed. I'm a realtor, right? Like, and all realtors do this. You have the house listed, let's say $100,000, and the buyer comes in. They've already pre-qualified their buyer. They know that the buyer needs X amount of cash to be able to qualify for a mortgage, right? Whether it's
right,
FHA or whatever. And they come and they say, hey, they're going to need like 6,500 to be able to close this deal. Otherwise, they won't get the loan.
right,
So what do all realtors do? They write a purchase contract for not 100,000 it's listed at. They write it for
right.
106,500.
Of course.
But then in the contract, what's it do? It's going back to the buyer.
Right.
Seller's going to credit them 6,500 because the seller's getting what they want. The buyer's
This is exactly
getting
how
what they
it's
want.
done, just on a larger scale.
Yeah,
It's the exact same
that's
thing.
exactly what you guys were doing.
Correct.
It happens every day.
It happens
then
every
what's-
day.
But then what's the realtor do? If they're a realtor that's been around the game,
Mm-hmm.
what they do as soon as they get under contract, they go into the MLS, they take the list price from 100,000 and they mark
Right.
it up to 106,500, so the bank doesn't see
Right.
that it was really listed at 100,000.
Right.
Nobody gets in trouble for that.
Right.
Nobody
Happens all the
does.
time. In fact, I got a message this morning on social media of somebody telling me that they were doing that exact thing and saying, no, it's not illegal, right? I'm like, hey, that's on you.
Yeah.
You have to figure that out. I'm just telling you that they did indict me and send me to prison for it. So,
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
your story, and when people listen to it, it should be a wake up call for a lot of investors.
Yeah.
And we've had things in the news politically with people that have been, jammed up for some real estate stuff that all of us do all the time, right?
Right. Super common.
And it's not uncommon for real estate deal. And there's times where I got to tell another realtor, like, bro, you got to, like, we can't do this. This is mortgage fraud, right?
Right.
And the amount of times that a realtor that is uneducated and doesn't really understand the game come to me and say, hey, my guy's going to need some rehab money. So we're going to write this for 150K, even though it's only listed at 100K. We just need you to kick that 50K back to the buyer so they'll have money to rehab. I'm like, no.
Not
Right?
good.
Like,
I'm not going to
no,
prison.
and I love the young realtors. Like,
Mhm.
no, it's perfectly legitimate. It's all going to be on the HUD. And ever since I've heard your story, like, I'm going to start telling them, go look up Portia
Portia
Louder.
Louder.
Like, that's going to
We'll
be my
call it
answer
the
to all
Portia
of them.
Louder rule.
Like, I am not doing it. I'm not going to federal print like Portia did.
Yeah.
But it happens every single day. You were doing it on millions, right?
Yeah.
So the second deal, you figured out the numbers, because now Washington Mutual was shady.
Oh, yeah.
You still got any friends from there? How are they doing?
No, they made millions. Yeah, I went to prison and all my buddies at Washington Mutual walked away because the government, I even tried to say, hey, look, I can give you Washington Mutual. And the government's like, yeah, we're going to bail them out. I'm like, huh? No. Yeah, that was hard.
All right, so your second deal, you'd figured out the numbers. Do you remember the second deal? The one you would have actually had
The
your first
actual
success
one that
on.
I closed,
Yeah.
yes, I do. It was and it closed. It was a $3 million house, locked it up for 1.5, closed it in hard money at 3 million, because that was honestly the way that the mortgage broker came up with this model more than I did. I just sat in the office while we came up with it. He was the one that was trying to close that first deal that didn't close. And so he's like, let's redo it. closed it with cash, put a lien on it for a second, and when the bank came in and refinanced it, there was like 700,000 cash back.
Yeah. Now, were you the buyer on that, or did
I
you have a
was the
buyer?
buyer on
You were
that.
the buyer on that one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Because I needed the money at that point.
Yeah.
But then all of a
But
sudden,
you had to put 1.5 down
yeah,
for the down payment. Was that your money? Did you get that from
borrowed
somebody
that
else?
borrowed that from somebody else, and then put a lien against it, and then so I didn't get the cash out until the refi. But what ended up happening was the mortgage broker had a whole bunch of friends that saw that this worked, and they were like, "Hey, we want to do it too."
Yeah.
So Louder becomes the person looking for these types of houses.
It's like a cancer.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
started getting approved with him ahead of time, and I just started going to builders and saying, "Hey, do you want to sell your house? I have a way to do it. Let's enter into a joint venture. I'll get you what you want. Everything else is going to go back to the person that buys it."
It really is a perfect storm. The builder's getting exactly what they want.
Yep.
All they have to do is be okay with the contract being marked up
Right.
over half,
Right.
which none of them are thinking that's illegal. Like, nobody would
It's a
have
joint
thought that.
venture.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
at the title company. Everybody's aware of it. The bank's
Yeah.
aware of it. Why would it be illegal?
And now you're also, a lot of people are like, well, how do you get to praise that high? Well, you're creating your HUD
You are.
because your HUD,
It's worth what you paid for it,
yeah,
right? You
or
paid
your
for it
Alta,
with
right?
cash. Yeah.
And a lot of people don't understand with banks. I have banks that I go to right now that I can say, here's the property that I bought in cash, and they'll say, okay, we'll give you X amount of dollars based on a desktop appraisal. They don't
Mhm.
even send an appraiser out there,
Yeah.
and they'll do a lot of desktop underwriting very quickly, and all they're really looking at is the HUD.
Right.
Because
Exactly.
in the investing game, you have two ways to refinance, lots of other ways, but the two main ways is you either refinance just to get your money back out,
Right.
or you allow that property to season to where you can show rents and income, and a
Right.
lot of banks require 6 months to a year. But if you want to just do it really quick, all they do is look at the HUD.
Right.
Like, oh, you paid 100K? Okay, we'll give you 75% or 70% or 60 or 65, whatever
Right.
that bank is, they're all a little bit
And the
different.
HUD was created with the hard money, and so the numbers all look great, and they just pay off, base it off the HUD.
Easy
Yeah.
enough.
Yeah.
So you get the first one to go through. Now, what was it that drove you to like really start doing it a little bit heavier? Was it, I guess what I'm confused about, was it the addictive personality? Was it the money? Was it the greed? Did you want to be in the spotlight? Did you want to be the go-to girl for everybody? Like, what was it
It
that
was a
that got you?
combination of things. So one of the challenges is that when these deals got stuck in hard money, I was putting the whole thing together.
Yeah.
So if it gets stuck in hard money, the hard money lender is my contact. They're
Yeah,
coming
yeah.
to me for a payment. So now I've got 3 deals. One of them I make 100 grand on, 2 of them I lose 30 grand on. So it's not like I'm getting rich on these deals, right? Like
Yeah.
I make a little, I lose a little. I make a little, and people are hearing about it. And honestly, the buyer doesn't have much risk. I mean, they're getting a big chunk of cash, and now they have a house. They can rent it out or move into it, and they have to make a payment, which mostly is either interest only or neg am. So their payment's $5,000 or $6,000 a month
Yeah.
on this 700 cash they got. My lawyer, when he finally looked at it, he's like, "Oh my gosh, you've done all these deals, and you took all the risk, and got what? What did you end up making?" He's like, "You did this for 100,000, and the buyer walked with 700,000, and the feds are looking at you and not the buyer." Like, it just didn't
Right.
make sense. And so I think that part of it was that I was losing some and making some, so I just kept rolling, trying to get ahead. Part of it was the addictive nature because I like to hustle. I got better at it, so I wanted to keep doing it. And I still had those dang lots until the end. I had those dang lots that I'm paying interest
Yeah.
payments on. And it was actually a complete nightmare. If I'm being totally honest, I felt the weight of the world. There isn't a darker time in my life than that. I felt completely sad and scared. I started hearing all kinds of garbage about me, frustrated that the mortgage broker was, making a bunch of money, and they're looking at me to, "You need to pay this louder, you need to pay that louder." And I felt so overwhelmed and scared. And I had investors, like friends, that were saying, "Hey, we want to put money into a deal." So their money was kind of wrapped up in the whole thing. And I just kept I was trying to get ahead.
Yeah.
Like, I really wasn't, there was never a time that I was millions and millions of dollars up. I was millions and millions of dollars in debt is what I
Sure.
was.
We all are in real estate.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah.
Now, how many were you actually the buyer on? Do you remember?
Probably 3 or 4.
3 or 4. So, best case scenario, and I'm just going to throw a number out there based on the numbers that you give me. Best case scenario, you maybe clear a couple million by being the buyer, but all that money is wrapped back up into
Exactly.
hard money loans and
Making
keep it going.
payments and everything else.
It's
Correct.
a pipeline, right?
is.
And in real estate, even when you're doing legit real estate, our accounts are here
Yeah.
all over the place. Somebody's like, well, how much do you make last month? I don't know.
Yeah. Millions went through my account,
Yeah.
and I will be lucky if I'm 50 grand
I
ahead.
might have lost $1 million last month.
Right. Yeah.
I really can't give you an answer to that because it changes every week.
Yeah.
And I think it's such a rat race sometimes when you get into real estate, especially when and I have an addictive personality myself. And when you get in there and you start having success, but then you have people that are like leaning on you
Oh,
because they want to see stuff too. Because there's something that people don't talk about, which is for you to get investors to come in, for you to be able to raise money, to be able to get some of these deals done, you have to, and I'm guessing here, you have to carry a certain persona. You have to present yourself in a certain way, which means that you have to present a lifestyle that people want to see that you're having success.
right.
Did you experience that? Like, was that a heavy weight on you trying
I
to live a
mean,
certain type of life?
I think because I had already bought a $3 million house, I'm living in a $3 million house that I know I can't sell for $3 million,
Right.
right? And I'm making that payment every month. And then I'm making this payment every month. And then, yeah, I think it was more just thinking how wonderful it would be if I could just get back to where I was before it all started.
Yeah.
Like that's the feeling I had. And it made it difficult when I found out that, I mean, when the FBI showed up, I was like, I have nothing. Like at this point, I have nothing. Like all I have is a big weight of debt. And the people that made the money that walked with 500 or 700,000, they were way better off than me,
Sure they were.
and it sucked. Now, I remember, the judge and the prosecutor's like, this woman did like 60 houses and $80 million in real estate. I mean, obviously, if I would have done one or two deals, I probably would have been just like the rest of them, walked free. There were people that I knew that were a lot dirtier and doing things like faking W-2s and other things that I just wasn't doing. So I used that as my justification. Like, I'm not the one, not me. I'm legit.
Yeah. It's
But
easy to think like that.
yeah, there's
Yeah.
people doing worse. As long as there's people doing worse, I'm okay.
Yeah. I think what a lot
So,
of people don't understand about the real estate game sometimes is the pipeline, like I mentioned earlier, and how easy it is to just feel overwhelmed and like you're drowning and you're not really making the money that people think that you're making.
right,
Eventually, you might if you do it right. Like real estate is really a long-term hold.
right.
You can have a bunch of one-night stands, right? Like you
Yeah.
flip a house, like you do it legit, like you can have a quick buck.
Mhm.
But even then, what do? If you're addictive and you have the success, like you're immediately putting that back into another property.
Right.
And I'm going to ask you something that I haven't heard anybody ask you on any other podcast, but I'm going to set it up with a story that I've never told on my podcast.
Okay.
I had a friend who moved to Ohio. It was about 3 years ago. He was a real estate guy, and he was I won't say he was a syndicator, but he raised a lot of money to flip properties and to buy apartment buildings. But it was all investor money; it wasn't his money. And oftentimes, what happens with these, not every syndicator, not every real estate guy that takes investors' money is shady,
Yeah.
but a lot of them are. Okay. And
Mhm.
I'm just going to be truthful, and I don't care who gets pissed off that I say that, but that's why I don't take investor money.
Right.
But I remember it was the 4th of July. We had a party at my house, and we were talking, and he had just opened up a new real estate office, and things were going great, but I could tell something was off with him. And he wouldn't tell me exactly what it was, but I said, you want me to come by the office Monday and let's chat? Like, let me go through your books. Let me go through your real estate stuff. Let's see if we can get you back on track, because he said he was struggling with a few deals. And we set a meeting for like noon that following Monday. I called him Monday morning, didn't hear anything. Called him afternoon, didn't hear anything. Called him that afternoon, didn't hear from him. Didn't hear from him the next day. And I called one of my buddies who knew him and lived in that area, and he hadn't heard anything. And then a couple hours later, I get a call back, and they had found him in his office that he had taken his own life, and he had shot himself in the head, and he had left notes for his family. And what it all came down to was he had all these funds that he was placing everywhere like a typical real estate person.
Right.
And it happens to a lot of people. It's a big Ponzi scheme at times, right? Like you
Mhm.
take this investor's money to pay this investor so they getting the returns that they want,
Right.
and he just got buried underneath of it. And he ultimately made a decision that I'll never understand. But at any point during this, when you're feeling kind of like that weight and the money around, were you ever in a place that deep? Like, did you ever think about, just
I remember telling my attorney, I said, I wish I just had cancer or something. Like, I wish there was just like a noble way for me to exit this. I haven't ever been suicidal. I did have a hard money lender threaten me, who basically came to my house. He said, because we couldn't pay him off at that point, the feds had come in. There was just, and I was like, take the house back. That's on you, bro. You lent the money. You got to take
yeah,
the house back. And he's like, yeah, you don't want to do this to me. And I was like, well, so I mean, he basically outright said, I know people and I'll have somebody come and take care of you. You can do this the easy way or the hard way. So I called my attorney and I said, should I be concerned? This guy just threatened my life. And she said, nah, it's usually not that we lose people for in these kinds of cases. Usually they just take their own life.
Yeah.
And I was like, dang. Like,
Unfortunately, that's the truth.
yeah,
It is. And that's why I asked that question. I've
yeah.
never heard you really talk about that piece of it on
No,
any
but
other show.
I remember feeling so alone and so scared. My marriage wasn't doing well. Chad was completely freaked out by it all. By the time the FBI showed up, I figured I was going to lose everything. And then they looked at my husband and said, basically, you know, you're going to get wrapped up in a conspiracy if you don't work with us,
Yeah.
if you stand by her. And at that point, I'm too much of a fighter though. And if I would have known that I was really just fighting myself, because the feds, they're a brick wall. They're not going anywhere.
Sure.
You can't win that battle. But I just kept fighting and fighting. And I really did just make things worse. I never did think about taking my life. And I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful that that was not something I just couldn't see past where I was. I could not see how I could go to prison and survive that and come back and have a meaningful life. Couldn't see it. I was wrong, but at that point in time, and I mean, I'm sure there's people that are in that situation. You're going through something hard and you cannot see past it. I know what that feels like. Like there is no way that I could see my life on the other side of prison. And yet my life was way more beautiful than it ever was before I went to prison.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that you didn't get there. And,
Yeah.
personally, I know that feeling. When I had my first house foreclosed on and my car was repossessed and my kids were moved away from me by their mom, like I went through some very, very dark moments
Yeah.
in my life before I had success and before I got in entrepreneurship. Man, I went through some dark moments, and it's hard not to let your mind, wander into some of those places. But I'm glad that you didn't, and you're here on the other side of it. But at what point was it that you kind of knew? Like, when was the first inkling that, man, this shit's coming? Like, it's going to unravel, like right here. Like, how
Yeah.
did you like start getting that feeling that things were going to start tumbling?
So I heard, I'd go to title companies and they're like, we can't close this deal, mostly because they thought that I was connected to the other Portia. She also got indicted for fraud and went to prison.
Now, what was she doing? Was she doing the same type of
She
thing?
was, I think so, but it was mostly as a hard money lender. She lived in a different town, but in Utah. And so it was really odd that that connection happened. I need to look her up, but
You guys could have been a power couple, man. Like, you could have really just rocked it together.
right?
Sounds like.
Should have connected. No. So it ended up that, I heard that I was under investigation and I went to my real estate attorney and he's like, you're not that important. He's like, what you're doing is fine. And then they went and hired a criminal defense attorney to look at it and said, yeah, it's not really good what she's doing. There's some problems, but she isn't that important. She just needs to stay on the down low and not do those deals anymore. And then the FBI showed up. So then we know that there is an investigation. So I called the attorney again and the attorney's like, well, let me reach out to the FBI. Let's go meet with the prosecutor. Let me do some digging. There was a grand jury investigation, which means they're looking at indicting me. And that's when I felt complete impending doom at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, was there a morning or an afternoon where you got the knock on the door and it was FBI agents
Yeah.
like at your house?
Yeah. Agent Saxey and Agent Denning. And I remember I had my littlest baby, my 3-month-old baby in my arms at that point, and it was the most sickening feeling. And my husband is scared, so he just goes white. And I said, go in the other room. Like,
Yeah.
you were not going to handle this very well, So, and I just remember them. I don't know. It's kind of unusual that they showed up because a lot of times they don't do that, but they did in my case and just said that, yeah, we're investigating your real estate transactions. And I do remember them looking at Chad and saying, she's going to go to prison.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, did Chad know by this point that you were
Yeah.
doing things that weren't on
Well,
the up
Chad
and
knew
up?
I was in trouble at this point. I mean,
Yeah.
we're talking to attorneys. He went with me to one of the meetings with my attorneys, and the attorney's like, she's not that important. And he goes, I need more than that.
Right.
He's like, that's not going to work for me. He's like, I'm married to her. We have kids. We just had a baby. Like, I need more than that. Can you tell me? And he's like, you need to calm down. Everybody's just trying to keep you calm because they already know, like, it's going to be ugly and there's nothing you can do about it. So you might as well just keep us calm, right? But Chad was worried and concerned, and Yeah.
So when did he find out or know that you were doing things that maybe weren't on the up and up? Because like when you first started and you're having success, like
Yeah.
you didn't go to him and be, hey man, like I'm gonna be shady, bro, and
No.
we're gonna take down some crazy deals but make a lot of money.
I think for Chad, it was just, she's in over her head. This is risky. He
Yeah.
didn't think it was illegal. He just thought, this is crazy. These kinds of numbers that are coming in and out of her bank account and all this stuff that's going on. And just the whole energy, the manic energy behind it, how fast I was moving and people knocking on the doors and investors showing up. And he's like, I should put some pylons out there and create a line for people to
Yeah.
knock on the door. It just felt really uncomfortable for him. And he didn't think it was illegal. He just didn't understand it and felt like it was way too aggressive and way too risky. And
So he thought you guys were just kind of like
make it
swimming
go.
in the gray area.
Right. That was what he thought.
So at this point though, he knows like, all right, this is serious.
At this point, he knows that I'm struggling with addiction. At this point, he knows that I'm in over my head. And, I had come back from my addiction and built a successful photography company. So I think in the beginning, Chad's like, Portia can do this. Portia can do anything. She's a hard worker. She won't quit. But at this point, he's like, Portia's upside down. Portia's in trouble. It's not
Yeah.
good,
Now, did you tell him that? Did you tell him you were upside down? Did you tell him you were
I told him
very-
I was struggling with addiction. I told him that I was scared and concerned and weighed down. And his answer to that was, and at this point, I had him quit his job. He's pretty much taking care of the kids. And
Yeah, I mean, you really like when I've listened to your story, Chad had to take on a different life to support the life that you had created for your family
correct.
through the real estate stuff. So he had made a lot of sacrifices already.
Oh,
And now you're coming to him
Yeah.
and he's finding out, okay, she's like been defrauding some mortgages or however
Yeah,
he took it.
yeah.
You had me quit my job. I stopped my career. I stopped this to take care of this
Yeah.
because you told me we were going to be okay.
Right.
That could not have been an easy conversation.
Oh, it was not a one-time conversation. He was angry. And I felt like I had just ruined his life. And it got to a point where he basically decided, I'm going to do the one thing I can do. I am going to go get a CDL and go drive a truck. I mean, and his dad calls me. He's like, what is Chad doing? I mean, he went to college. Why is he doing this? So I reached out to a friend who had a trucking company in North Dakota and said, all right, we're going to partner up with you. Chad's going to come up there. So he left and went up and drove a truck and tried to because at this point the real estate's crashing, right? And the FBI's coming in and financially we're in big trouble. So he went and drove a truck and we started a truck driving company.
I'm just guessing that you didn't get a Valentine's Day present that year. Like there was no chocolates or
He was
flowers
so
sitting on
mad
the
at
counter.
me. If I'm being honest, there was a conversation while he was up there where I called him and I said, we should just get divorced. You hate me. I'm so tired. I'm tired of it. I feel so bad about what I've done to you and to our family. And he's like, and now you're just going to quit? And now you're going to leave?
Yeah.
How could you do this? He's like, I hate you. He was so mad at me at
Sure
this
he
point.
was.
What was amazing and what I would always honor my husband for is the next morning, he called me back and he goes, will you forgive me for not standing by you more and not helping you through this? He goes, give me a chance to do better. And I was just like, are you kidding me? I love my husband because he just exhibits integrity in my book.
Sure.
He's an honorable man. So we recommitted and really worked hard. And he told me at that point, he made the decision, no matter what, he would stand by me. He's like, that's when I knew. He goes, because I love you. He goes, I could have done better too. I let you walk alone. And he goes, if you go to prison, I'll always be by you. And he has. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, it started with you tricking him into dating you to begin with. So
Yeah. It started based on a fraud.
at this point, he has to feel like, man, how did I get here? How did I do this?
Oh, it was pretty dark. And his dad laid into me. What have you done to my son? I just remember going, I am so tired of this. It was awful. Yeah, it was
well,
really rough.
and I think you kind of skip over, not you telling your story, but
Yeah.
it's easy when you hear this story being told to not understand how much time from the time that
yeah.
you start real estate till the time that things crash down, right? And
I was
that's
indicted in
crazy.
2011. These real estate deals happened from 2004 to 2007. I didn't even go to prison until 2015.
Yeah,
So, I mean, this is a big chunk of our life.
sure.
That this was going on.
But while you're doing real estate and before things come crashing down, you guys are living a different type of lifestyle. I mean, you have a big home. You
Yeah.
you guys, people know that you have a little bit of money coming in and out, like they see
Right.
whatever. And um, for some people, they get used to that. Some people are haters and jealous and just waiting for it to crash down on you.
Right.
And when it finally does, I can only assume that his dad, they're like, oh my gosh, we had no idea. We thought you guys were doing well. Like, you guys
Yeah.
told us we're doing well. And they probably had a sense of disappointment as well that they weren't able to, kind of see that or head that off.
Yeah.
But I'm sure that there were other people in your community who were like, I knew Portia was shady.
Oh, there's lots of that.
Yeah,
There's lots of that.
sure.
What's really cool though, I mean, on the other side of that, a lot of those people are just like, they've been so supportive. Like, look, like I'm a comeback story, I came back from prison and my life is completely different. So,
Yeah,
but I mean, you just have to accept the haters. You're going to go through, whether you're doing good or bad, not everyone's going to like you. If you're going to be on social media, if you're going to influence in any way, you've got to accept that. And really, for me, what it's become is I've got to be comfortable with me. I got to feel good about myself.
yeah,
The rest of it is out of my control. But at that point, I wasn't comfortable with myself. I couldn't look in the mirror and feel good about me. That was the most important change that had to take place for me, was I had to be okay with me.
yeah.
And it's changed everything.
So the FBI knocks on your door.
Mhm.
Things are tumbling down. You don't immediately get arrested. You don't immediately get indicted. And you're dealing with your attorneys. What was next? Like, you guys decide to go in and meet with them on your own, or did they subpoena you?
No, so my attorney, and I went through a lot of attorneys, but this particular attorney's like, I think that we can have a conversation and probably you're not that important. It's not that big of a deal, Portia. Like, let's go in and see if we can't talk it over. So we go into this meeting, and when we walk in, there's like everyone from the state. There's the FBI, there's state people, the Division of Real Estate, prosecutors. It's like a full house. At this time, it's my female attorney, and she looks at me and goes, hold on a minute. You need to wait out there. She's like, you're all here for Portia? Then she comes out and she goes, I think what they want to hear from you, Portia, is a mea culpa. She was Catholic, which just means apologize, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm not sure what that means. She goes, just be really sorry. So we sit down, and the FBI is like, literally the FBI pounds the table. You have taken the whole market down. And she's looking at me, and I'm like, but I didn't do that. And he kind of had an idea. They thought I was doing something that I wasn't doing. And I kept trying to say, yeah, but that's not it. But that's not it. And they were getting madder. And finally we took a break, and my lawyer said, I think the meeting's over. So it just went so bad. And then we left, and I went home, and I literally threw up for 2 or 3 days. She didn't call me until Monday, and she goes, I can maybe get you a deal for 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So did you ever admit in that meeting to what you were doing?
No, not really. Well, they didn't seem to know what I was doing.
Yeah, yeah.
Like they had.
What did they think you were doing?
I think that they thought that I had all the buyers as straw buyers, that I was making
That they
all the
weren't real
cash.
buyers.
They weren't real buyers.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's a lot of people think that on.
And a lot of people might
straw
not know
man.
what a straw buyer is or a
Yeah,
straw man
it's like
is.
you use somebody's credit, and I was getting all the cash back.
Right.
And I was like, that's not it. Like, all the investors are buying the houses. And even my attorney couldn't understand that. He's like, why are you taking so much risk and not getting all the cash back?
Yeah.
And so that was hard for people to understand. It wasn't just a typical straw man deal where you get a bunch of straw buyers, they use their credit, you get the cash back, you make the payment. I wasn't making the payments, they were making the payments.
Mhm.
So I was just the facilitator, and I think they thought that I was a lot more than that.
Now, you did have a couple deals like that, though, right?
I did.
Like,
I
and that's
was
what
on-
ultimately got Chad wrapped in it, was
Correct.
using his credit. And,
Yeah, but I mean, he's my husband. It's not really a straw buyer.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess, but not really. But it's not like I was using, yeah. So that's what they thought.
I can imagine how confused they were.
Yeah, they were.
A bunch of cops that don't know anything about real estate sitting around trying to find out. Like, it's a very complicated thing.
It's a complicated thing.
And it'd be
yeah.
hard for even people watching this. It's going to be hard for investors to really understand it. And that's why I told the story earlier about marking
Right.
the price up.
Yep.
Because that's
a
all it is.
simplified. It's all it is. It's just done on a larger scale.
Yeah, you just went big time, man. Like
Yeah.
you don't do anything small.
Yeah.
So you have the meeting. Meeting doesn't go well. Like, that's kind of over. And then what happens next? Do you get indicted next?
No. So there was another attorney that came in that knew a friend of mine that said, I just don't think you broke the law. I don't think this is illegal. I'm willing to come in. You pay me $100,000 and we will audit all your books, and I will go present this to them before they even indict you and show them that you did not break the law. Well, I wanted to hear that. Like, here's the $100,000, let's go ahead and take whatever we have out of
Yeah.
retirement now. And we did do the audit on the books, and he went in and presented it, and it just made them madder, madder and madder. So now they're like, no, she's going down. We're going to indict her. And it doesn't matter what you present. And so it just escalated. And then they ended up indicting me in 2011.
You know, for any amount of money, you can find an attorney to give you the answer that you want.
I know. I could have paid someone a lot less than $100,000, right?
Yeah. But let me ask you this.
Okay.
Were you honest with your attorneys?
Oh, I was completely honest with both of the attorneys.
Like you told them, yes, we're being shady. We're not doing this by the book.
The problem with this attorney was that he had a pretty good-sized ego. He
Sure.
had been a prosecutor, and he thought he liked to come in and say, I can win this case. And I even looked at him and said, John, I have problems. You can say what you want to say, but if the jury looks at this, there's problems. And he goes, it's just a little snafu. It's not that big of a deal. And I'm like, but it's my life on the line. It turns out that attorney kind of ended up approaching me and wanting more out of the relationship than I could give him. So he wasn't super honest, didn't have great integrity anyway. Yeah. But yeah, I got to a point where I really didn't like working with lawyers anymore. So
yeah. We kind of joked about it on the car ride over, but it was, like, hey, I'll get you off, but you got to get.
Yeah. Yeah. It wasn't good. Like, it got to a point where he was really putting on pressure for me to have sex with him.
Yeah.
And I was, I had to actually fire him, I end up getting a CJA or a court-appointed attorney. So that was in the mix too. And the problem was he was a reputable attorney that had made me this promise that I would walk, but he wanted something from me I couldn't give him. And so it was that was another really difficult part.
So you end up with a court-appointed attorney.
I did.
Was it because you ran out of money? Or?
Yeah, I ran out of money. At this point, we lost everything. We moved into a townhome. Chad's driving a truck, and we're trying to survive through all of it. And I have a court-appointed attorney.
How much had you spent on attorneys at that point?
Oh, $300,000.
Without even going to court?
Correct.
Man, that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So you go with this court-appointed attorney, and do you feel like they represented you well?
Yes and no. The court-appointed attorney didn't really, it was too complicated for him to understand.
Sure
Everybody was
was
having a hard time
Sure.
with it. And so he said, look, this is a victimless crime. He's like, the banks are not victims. They were part of it. We might be able to win it, but I'm telling you, when you go against the feds, it's 97% they win. He said, I just fought a case and we won, and they re-indicted it. They will re-indict you until they get you.
They're relentless.
Yeah. He's like,
it's not like dealing with local authorities.
He's like,
they
you're
are
going
relentless.
to lose, and all I can do is minimize your time. So my suggestion is we make a deal. Well, I wasn't ready to make the deal, and I didn't feel like he had really looked over everything. He didn't understand it. I just couldn't accept that I was going to have to leave my kids and go to prison at that point. And so he and I kind of butted heads, and then he asked to be released, and they gave me another attorney. Like it was a long.
Well, you just sound like the model client.
I was such a pain in the butt. And by the time I walked in front of that judge, the reality of what I had done set in, and I knew they're going to max me out. Nobody likes me.
So what were your official charges at the time? Like what did they indict you for?
Mortgage fraud, money laundering, wire fraud, mail fraud, which is all underlying the real estate, right? They hit you with all those things. If you send money across state lines, it becomes a federal crime.
I mean, for every transaction you guys did, there was
19 counts.
There was at least 2 wire frauds.
Yeah. So
right?
they
like
hit me with
money
19
going in,
counts
money
of
going
that.
out.
Mm-hmm. And the terrible part of it was, if I would have pled early, we could have avoided what ultimately happened, which is that they superseded the indictment and added my husband to it.
Yeah.
So they charged him as well.
Do you think they did that out of spite?
I think they did that to pressure. I mean, they basically threatened to do it, and they did it. And they could do it. He lives in the home. I used his credit. He's a conspirator. He benefited from it. I don't think they wanted to. I think everyone felt sorry for Chad. They saw me as the devil and looked at it as poor Chad. But if he's going to stand by me, he's going down too.
Sure.
So, yeah.
So you get indicted on all these. How many total years did they tell you that you're up against when they take all the counts? Do you remember like that number?
25 to, I don't know, 25-ish.
I can only imagine it'd be a crazy number.
It was a number, yeah.
That's what the feds do really good, is they stack charges and stack charges and stack charges.
Right.
And it's like everything you do. Oh, you went in the mail office and you touched an envelope? Okay, that's mail fraud.
Right.
Whatever it is, they just stack them and they try to scare you, and they indict.
And it is scary.
Anybody close.
They didn't try. They were effective at it.
They're good at it. They're good at it.
It's terrifying. I was so scared.
Now, was the only reason that you didn't want to plead, was it because that you were going to have to go to prison? Or did you still think you could beat it? Or you still thought maybe I
You
didn't
know,
really do anything wrong?
no, I thought I had problems. I just remember being really scared to go to prison. I also had gotten our family into a situation where they were dependent on my income. I started another company, so I have an eBay business that I'm running. I'm kind of the provider. Chad's trying to bring some stuff in. And I remember my son, who was, I mean, just imagine you've got a son about this age. My son
Yeah.
is like 11 years old. And he comes in one morning. He goes, Mom, can I get a job to do a paper route? Would you take me in the morning to do that? And I go, why do you want to get a job with a paper route? He goes, so that I can bail you out if you go to jail, you know? And I'm just like, I can't do this to my kids. I mean, they've been living with this fear and I'm telling them no. I just felt like I was fighting for everything that was right, my family, to be able to raise my kids. I was mad because I thought the banks got away with it. They didn't, they are part of this. And then there were all these other investors and I had an attorney that wasn't acting right. I feel like everybody's so like dishonest. Why me? Why me? I was just really so stressed about that and I could
Yeah.
not accept it. Now, looking back, like the right thing absolutely would have been to make a deal and just maybe, but I'm so stubborn. I feel like I just couldn't do it. I just couldn't do
Yeah.
it. You
It
know?
sounds like you had a lot of attorney issues though, right? Like I feel like the right attorney would have guided you into like a proffer. Like
Yeah.
would have guided you into a leverage position, making the FBI believe that you knew a lot more than what you really did, and
Yeah.
allowing them to agree to some type of proffer where you're going to come in and give them the hope that you're going to give them all kinds of crazy stuff
Right.
and be able to lock that in. But maybe you were too stubborn at the time to even consider that
Yeah.
anyway. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. But it just went the way it went.
Yeah.
And
Now, I feel like
eventually,
my son would have said same thing. He would like,
yeah.
I don't think my son would have said, Dad, can I go work so I can bail you out?
Uh-huh.
He'd be like, hey, Dad, we still got that dynamite in the garage. Like, I'll blow you out. Like, my son's crazy. He would have did that.
Yeah. I'm so proud of my kids for getting through it.
Yeah, it sounds like
did.
they're great.
They're awesome.
But
Yeah.
okay, so you're stubborn.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to help yourself out.
Yeah.
You end up probably getting your husband indicted too because they
Yeah.
got to get some leverage over you.
Yeah.
But your court case, you go before, and what happens? Like you end up in jail before you ever get like convicted, right?
Yeah. So leading up to, so we were in the courtroom. I was planning on going to trial. And believe me, did I have the weight of the world on me because I had both me and my husband were going to go to trial. And they told us, we will put you both in jail at the same time. So your kids will have nobody to take care of them.
Yeah.
I was trying to negotiate. I'm like, can you at least, if we lose, put Chad in after I do my time? And they're like, nope, you both go down. So I'm feeling like my only plan at this point is to fall on the sword, go to trial and fall on the sword and take the bullet
Yeah.
so that Chad walks. And in the courtroom next to ours, the U.S. Marshals shoot a guy on his first day in trial. That's a very unusual thing to happen at a federal courthouse. He stood up with a pencil in his hand.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say it's common that people get shot at the federal courthouse.
No,
Like,
it was.
that's not-
It's very unusual. If you
Yeah.
look it up, it happened in Utah. This man gets shot. They locked down. The marshals ran into our courtroom. The judge is like, we need to like lock down the courthouse right now. We were there for our own hearing. Chad stays in the courtroom, but I walk down the back steps and I walk out the front of the courthouse with the paramedics and this guy that's been shot, and the news is waiting there. And I do an interview with the news and say, they're like, what happened? And I go, well, the U.S. Marshals just shot a guy and killed him. Well, that's not what they wanted to come out. They
Yeah.
wanted to control that narrative,
Sure.
right? So Chad walks out and sees me talking to the news and comes over and grabs me and said, we're leaving now. So we're on our way home and my attorney calls and says, what were you thinking? You're supposed to be going to trial in 3 weeks. Do you know how mad everybody is right now? And I said, well, I'm mad too. Everybody's mad. And
Yeah.
she's like, it doesn't work like that. So we ended up, the judge wanted me back the next morning in court and they revoked my pretrial release and put me in jail.
because of that.
Yeah. And
Like,
so-
is that the reason that he gave you?
no, I mean, they found a reason.
What reason did they use? Do you remember?
Yeah, I had 2 prescriptions for the same drug. So they used that and revoked my pretrial release.
Really?
Mhm.
So you
but
go to county jail
They
at that
take
point,
me
right?
to the county jail. I have pretty much a nervous breakdown at this point because with everything that I'm facing, right? Also, I am using prescription drugs, so I'm detoxing too.
Sure.
They put me in for a week and I realized pretty quick, like, there's no way I can let Chad come to a place like this. Like, he's not cut out for it, which sounds funny that I am and he's not, but I'm a little bit more edgy. And so I pretty much decide I probably have to plead, but I'm not, and just take whatever the time is. But I'm still not completely there. Well, they lock me up for about 3 months. They ship me from facility to facility in chains and shackles. I've never had any of these experiences before. And they do a mental evaluation. Luckily, I end up being deemed competent to stand trial. They send me back, and my attorney argues to have me released because I'm still on. I mean, I'm not a danger to myself or others, and I'm not a flight risk, so I should be released back into pretrial so that I can go to trial. And the judge said no. And so when my attorney came to talk to me, I said, go tell the prosecutor I will plead guilty right now if they'll let me out today. And the judge said, okay. So like they argued, 1 minute they argued that I wasn't competent to leave, and the next minute they argued that I was competent enough to plead guilty and leave.
Yeah.
And
It's
I walked
all
out.
leverage game, right?
Yeah,
Like
I
they don't
walked-
want to go to trial either.
Right. They don't want to go to trial. So
And,
I
and
walked
quite
out
honestly,
with
they
a
were
guilty
probably
plea.
nervous because having to explain what you did in front of a jury of common people,
That was a concern.
it would be very
But
tough.
what they had done while they locked me up too is that they argued that I was not allowed to bring in any evidence, that the bank was aware of what I was doing, and the judge agreed to it. So I had just
they won
had
that, huh?
all that excluded while I was locked up in the
Oh my
county jail.
gosh.
So now I'm just like, I mean, it was just bad. So I pled guilty, and I remember Chad's attorney going, don't let her sign that until we get a deal for Chad. I pled guilty anyway. I walked out. Chad was still not sure what he was going to do. And then I tried to revoke my plea, which made everybody so mad again.
Now, why did you try to revoke it though?
Because I'm crazy.
Yeah.
A little bit crazy. Like at this point, I'm mad. Yeah. It ended up that the guilty plea stood. I had about 6 months before I was sentenced. And at that point, Chad was still planning to go to trial. And everyone was kind of waiting to see what would happen with me. My attorney at that point thought I might get a year, maybe probation. I don't have a criminal history, you know.
Yeah.
I walk in, and as soon as I walk in, I knew. I looked around and I could feel it. I'm like, they're going to max me out today. It's going to be 84 months. It's 7 years. I remember looking back at Chad and the kids and thinking, man, I am so sorry. This is going to suck for everybody so much. And the judge just sentenced me to 84 months in federal prison. And I remember Chad got up and he just pled with the judge. He goes, please give her time to say goodbye to her kids. She's going to need that. I knew that Chad and I would get through it together. So I got 8 weeks, and then we still had to decide what to do about Chad when I got home. I remember that night I walked in and looked at each of my kids while they were sleeping. And then I went in and I laid next to Chad and I said, you've got to plead guilty tomorrow. I can't take any chance that I'm going to prison. They just gave me 7 years. You need to be here for our kids.
Right.
The only accommodation they made was that if Chad would plead guilty at this point, after I had just been sentenced, that they were still looking at giving him prison time, but they wouldn't make him serve it until I got home.
Yeah.
And that was the thing that I was most worried about was our kids. And so we went to his office and he signed the guilty plea, his attorney's office. And then he wasn't sentenced until I got to prison. Luckily, he was sentenced to home confinement. He didn't do any time, but that was heartbreaking. All of it was just heartbreaking, recognizing at this point, I'm going to be gone for 7 years. My youngest child's 7 years old. Like our world changed forever that day that I was sentenced.
Yeah. And the judge had ordered you into custody, but
Yeah,
the
the
Chad
judge-
is kind of what saved you, him standing up
Yeah,
and
the
talking
judge
for you
wanted
there.
me chained and shackled right there. He was so mad at me. He's like, can I give her more time? You know, he wasn't super happy. And, but Chad did talk him into, even my attorney couldn't get that done. She was standing there going, but Miss Louder, and the judge is like, I don't care. And then Chad's like, please don't do this to her. And he gave me 8 weeks to say goodbye.
How was that 8 weeks?
That 8 weeks was like, I think I cried for 3 solid days. I think I cried for everything that I had already missed. Like, I couldn't believe how foolish I had been. It just shook me into reality when I was sentenced, and I could see that I had traded everything important for nothing, for money. I didn't even have any money at that point, but just the fact that I had wasted something so valuable as time. And I like to think that I was trying to get prepared, but there's no way to prepare to go to prison.
No, not at
There's
all.
no way. You can't, until you get there, understand how painful that will be.
Now, when you were sentenced and you're back at home for 8 weeks, did you? I've heard people in similar situations, say that they actually felt like there was like all this weight lifted off of them that they had been carrying for. Did you have any of those type of feelings
I
after
think there
sentencing
was
was done?
freedom in being sentenced.
Yeah,
Having the burden for so long of not knowing, in a way, it was like, well, you just hit me with your best shot. You maxed me out and I'm still standing.
yeah.
So it's like, now what? Like, I at least knew that I would get through it. I would survive. I had just taken the hit. And so it felt a little bit freeing. Yeah.
So next 8 weeks, you're just with family, hanging out as much as you possibly can. I can imagine.
Yeah.
And then you have to. You taught at any federal prisons, right? So
Right.
you had to report to where, California?
Oakland, California. Well, just outside of Oakland, Dublin, California. Yeah. And you know what's crazy? I had never been to prison, so I don't know what a prison's supposed to be run like, but I knew that that prison was pretty off. Like, it turns
Yeah.
out they've now closed that prison down, and I've had to go testify um, because the warden and some of the other officers were having sex with inmates and doing things they shouldn't be doing. But all I knew was there's things going on here that I don't like, so I'm blogging about it, and I'm sending home my blog to my husband, and he's posting it online, and it got a whole lot of attention. I'm called over to the officer station on a daily, and eventually they locked me up, put me in the shoe, and
'Cause they just want you to shut your mouth.
they
They
just
don't want
want me to shut
you
my mouth.
bringing light.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right. So before you get there, though, like
Mhm.
let's think, like, because it was a decent drive, like that last hour. Now I know I've heard you say it that you actually let Chad drop you off like an hour early or whatever.
Yeah.
So let's say like the 2 hours before, when you're driving there, like that last little bit,
Yeah.
like what was going through your mind as you guys pull up to the gates of the prison and like, all right, I'm getting ready to go in here for 7 years.
Oh, I think I'm trying to get the bravado. Like, I'm just like, I got this. Nobody's going to mess with me. I can do this. Like, I've already been through a traumatic experience of going to jail and all of that craziness. So I'm just like, I'm trying to get my game face on,
Yeah.
I mean, really. And Chad he's so sweet and tenderhearted. He's crying. He's like, I am going to miss you. And I'm like, Chad, just take me to the prison. I just got to get in the game.
Yeah.
It wasn't until I got to the prison that I was like, oh, what have I done? What have I done? How could I have been such a fool and let him drop me off early? Because it changes the minute they shut that door.
Yeah. Did you ever see that movie Get Hard
No,
with Will Ferrell?
no.
So he's getting ready to go to jail and he
He's trying to get all tough.
hires the guy Tuffy Bob. Like, you didn't do any of that type of stuff?
No, but I mean, I did try to just put up the wall,
Yeah.
So,
So you walk in, at this point, let me just recap for everybody that's listening. You piss the FBI off. You piss the judge off. You fire several attorneys. You make your attorneys mad at you. You end up pissing the judge off again by giving a press conference. You make Chad's family mad at you. Chad was mad at you. You
Chad's
go into
okay now at this point, but
He's
everyone
good
else is
now.
mad.
But then you go into prison and you say, you know what? The best thing that I can do is piss off the warden of the prison. Like, what were you thinking?
I was still at war with myself, Todd. I was still at war with myself, okay? Like, I still thought that it took me a while to realize I was the problem. It really did. Like, I kept thinking, I got to just keep fighting my way out of this. I got to keep fighting my way. They're coming for me. They're coming for me. And then one day I went, I'm the problem. I'm at war with myself.
Yeah.
But it took a minute. It took a couple of years in prison.
So you
Because
make
then
them
I'm
that-
in prison, and guess what? There's a whole bunch of other people
Yeah.
that are all in denial too. And I'm looking around going, we have something in common. And I
Yeah.
didn't want to be that person anymore.
Yeah, I think there's a song out there I like, right? Maybe you know. Do you listen to country?
A little bit.
Okay. But whatever that one song is, where it's like, if I'm the problem,
Mm-hmm.
you're the reason. And I think, a lot of times when we get in situations that we don't want to be in, it's like we might be the problem, but we always have to figure out what the reason is.
Yeah.
And it sounds like kind of through what you were going through with prison, you were able to really do some deep soul searching and understand at least what the reason was that you became the problem.
Right. Yeah. It's crazy, but really, since I was a young girl, I was taking care of kids and working my little guts out to keep going. Prison was a break for me.
Yeah.
It was a painful break, but it was a break. It was a chance for me to grow up a little bit and work on myself and take some ownership and imagine a new future.
Sure.
So,
So you got transferred around. Like, you didn't stay at one prison. How many prisons were you in with your federal term?
CTAC, 1, 2, I don't know, like 4, 5.
Yeah.
Too many.
How was prison life? Was it what you expected it to be, or?
I mean, I don't know if you can ever expect it. For me, it was a lot of boring, a lot of pain, a lot of structure, and some entertainment now and then, you
Yeah.
know. But
I would imagine that'd be pretty entertaining. I mean, there has to be
there's
some characters in
moments,
there.
there's definitely moments where somebody just freaking loses their crap and takes a big lunch tray and smashes it across someone's head and everything goes into chaos and you're like, all right. You know, those types of moments happen.
Yeah. Now, I'm former law enforcement. I have a lot of friends that have been COs,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of shady stuff that happens in prison.
Yeah, and there's a lot of good ones too. Like that's
Yeah.
the thing. Like I had a lot of good. I don't know. Once I realized that I was the problem, I didn't really focus. I tried to keep my distance from everybody else.
Yeah.
I mean, not the women, but like law enforcement and stuff. I
Sure.
just did my own thing.
So besides the first one that you're at, was there, did you see a common theme, or was it pretty rampant with COs trying to sleep with the females?
No, it wasn't like that at all at Wasika. I didn't see it that way. I think California was different.
Yeah.
And that's why they shut it down. It was problematic.
All right. So what was the absolute best recipe you came up with in prison as you guys are trying to eat?
Well, I am well known for like my prison cake, and I mean I'm really good at it. I actually should have brought one for you, but
I'm good.
you don't
Miles
need
might
it.
have ate a prison cake, but I'm all right.
Yeah,
I got money now. I can afford food.
yeah,
Like,
I
I'm
know, I
good.
know, but I mean I literally have made that cake at like fancy book clubs and stuff, and people are like, "Are you kidding me? This is really good, even for out here." The other things that we made were interesting, but like you can definitely get better food out here. But I really do think the prison cake is worth trying, and it's on YouTube if someone wants to check it out. So
On your YouTube channel?
yeah,
All right. I might do it. I might do it. I might do it.
yeah,
You know what? I've never seen, have you ever seen it? Has anybody ever created like a prison cookbook and sold it?
I've seen him. Yeah,
You have? I've
Mhm.
never seen it.
yeah,
Oh, well, there goes I thought that was a great idea.
yeah.
All right. So you get to, you're sentenced to 7. You end up only doing about 5. When you left prison, were you able to go straight home, or did you have to go to like a halfway house?
Had to go to a halfway house. Yeah. By that time, so I did most of my time in a higher security prison. And then at the end, I was sent to a camp. So I did my last 7 months at a camp. And by that time, yeah, I was ready to go home and excited to go home. And they made me go to a halfway house,
Yeah.
but it's all right.
So on your final day from the halfway house, who picked you up?
My husband.
Just Chad?
Yeah. Yeah.
How was that?
Chad picked me up from, I was so freaked out and overwhelmed to come home that I didn't even want him to bring the kids when he came to get me in California. He came and got me in California and then brought me to the halfway house. And then I could start to see family and stuff. It took, I'd love to tell you that it was just this perfect love story. And I think it is because we've created that. But honestly, I didn't even know him or my kids anymore.
Yeah.
Like we've been apart so long, it took me a while. I couldn't even sleep next to him. I mean, I had been sleeping in a bunk so long, like everything was so weird that it just took time to adjust. So, I mean, I love him and I get excited every time I see him and I hold his hand, all
Yeah.
those things, but still it took some time to adjust. So,
I mean, I can imagine, like almost like the first
yeah.
date, going
Yeah,
like back,
it
like
was
you got to
like
relearn
that.
each other, and
Yeah, it was like that.
a lot
Re-getting
changes
to-
in lot changes in
changed.
5-6 years.
Oh yeah, and my kids had grown up and I felt weird around everybody and it's taken time. I mean, I've been home now for 5 years, as long as I was gone, and there's still work to be done.
Yeah.
Oh,
How was
so-
the relationship with your kids then and now?
It was hard when I came home. I mean, I had a 17-year-old daughter that just said, "You did not raise me. I'm not listening to you. You can't tell me what to do."
Yeah.
It was hard.
That's a hard age for girls.
It is.
I got 2 of them, 18, 17. They're great now,
Right.
but man, they go through that period where
Yeah.
even if you're active and you're in their life,
Right.
you're the freaking devil. Like
Right.
they hate your guts at some point.
It
So I
a
can
lot
only
of
imagine.
Yeah, it's gotten a lot better. It really has. I just had to keep showing up and letting her be angry and showing up and build trust,
Yeah.
So,
Well, it sounds like things are, at least back on the right track for you family wise. And,
yeah.
what I think is really incredible about you and what I like about your story is you had a lot of directions you could have went after prison. You could
Yeah.
have done a lot of things. You could have got out and went right back into doing something, shady or whatever. But, you did what some do, which is you've made some decisions to really try to do positive in your life and to be a beacon of hope for people. So, what have you been focusing on since you've been out?
Yeah. When I got home, I knew my life would never be the same. Going back to photography didn't feel right. And I started working in drug treatment. I wrote my first book. Started working with the homeless community. So I work in mental health. I'm a mental health coach. I do a lot of speaking, wrote my second book, and I share prison stories on social media. And I'm trying to kind of humanize the people that I met that are amazing, that had a lot more difficult circumstances than I did. And so I feel like I'm kind of reaching back and trying to make a difference that way.
Yeah. Do you like where you're at right now?
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I have plans for more to come, but I like
Yeah.
where I'm at.
Could you imagine doing anything different?
No. I mean, I, yeah, no. I love what I do. Like way more than I loved what I did before I went to prison.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just talking with you, I see a glow about you when you talk about things you're doing now, and it seems like you're where you should be.
Thank you. Yeah.
That's the opinion of meeting you
Yeah.
briefly in person and hearing your stories, but
Yeah.
but it really does like that, and it should be inspiring to people, right? Like there are so many people in this world that have roadblocks and hurdles and get slapped in the face with bricks, and it's easy to shut down. It's easy to give up. It's easy to turn away and make excuses for why you can't have success in life, or you know, we talk about all the time with entrepreneurship with wealth and things like that, and you experience the wealth and the success with entrepreneurship and real estate, and then you do 7 years in federal prison, right? Like you could come back out, you could be poor, you could be homeless, you could be back on dope or
Yeah.
smoking crack or smoking meth, but you have found a way now to make money again and feel comfortable making money again and have a successful, life. And I think that should be the really the what people take from you when they see you.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I want people to understand and know, especially people that go through this process or wherever they're at, if you do the next right thing, you can turn it around. Like no matter where you are. A lot of the people that I work with in prison are like, what kind of a job will I have? Who will accept me? I go, just show up where you are. Have integrity where you are. Start becoming that person and the world will cheer you on. They'll show
Yeah.
up for you. Things will open up. And I've experienced that. I came home. I didn't know that I would be doing what I'm doing now, but I did do the best I could while I was locked up to become the best version of myself. And it changed everything.
Yeah.
So,
All right. So I have a ton of real estate people that follow me and entrepreneurs that follow me.
yeah.
If you could give the best advice to a new investor, real estate investor, because I think it happens more often than not that
Yeah.
oftentimes they start having a little success, and before they know it, they're maybe playing in the gray area,
Yeah.
allowing things to snowball. And eventually it's very easy to get into the position that you were in because
Yeah.
it just seems okay.
Right.
What would, if you're talking to some of them that are just getting started, and they start feeling the pressures of real estate and that pipeline thing, like what would be the advice that you'd give to them?
I would say a couple things. One, don't make money your master. It doesn't have to be like that. If you can choose your family and yourself before that, like recognize that money is a tool and you can have it. But if it's the most important thing, then you will sacrifice things that are truly more important. I think that the other lesson that I would want people to understand is wherever you're at in that process, you can stop where you are. Like when I was in the middle, I could have stopped. I didn't have to keep going. Like I kept thinking I had to keep going because I was in this bad position. No, I didn't. I could have lost 100,000. I could have lost my home equity and still recovered fine. I could have kept that house in the long run. I could have not gone to prison. I wasn't so deep in that I had to keep going. And I think that if you've made some mistakes, turn it around. If you haven't made those mistakes yet, listen to your gut because your gut will tell you. It really will. And don't let that excitement, that manic, whatever it is that I had, like the rush, don't let that be the ruler in your soul, because your logic will fight that and listen to your logic. Listen to it.
I love it. All right. So I think there's going to be so many people that want to reach out to you, want to connect with you. What's the easiest way for people to connect with Portia if they want to?
I am on all platforms and I have a website, portialouder.com. But yeah, they can find me on TikTok and Instagram and Facebook, and I'm pretty good at responding. So,
well, yeah, I sent you a message on TikTok,
yeah,
right?
here we are.
I said, come on, come out and shoot a show. I was going to get you one way or the other. I was either going to fly to
I
Utah
know.
or I was going to fly you
Yeah,
out
well,
there.
your home is much nicer than mine. You have a beautiful home.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that. And
Yeah.
we had such a good time having you in, even
It's
though it was a
nice.
short period.
Yeah,
But you have two incredible books, right?
I think
That
so.
that you've written that everybody should probably take a look at. They
Yeah.
can get them on Amazon. They're
They're
on
on
Audible.
Yep.
But the first one is Living Louder.
Yep.
So what's that one about? Like, what should people expect if they
Yeah.
jump and grab that book?
That
for you?
is a book of it kind of goes through me getting involved in the real estate and then going to prison and then that whole through prison. And then it ends when I come home. I'm at the halfway house. And then this picks up where it left off.
All right. So Born to be Brave, which is a
Right.
compassionate journey through
life.
your life. So
Yeah.
what's this one? What are people going to see or hear when they
It's going to
when they
go
get these?
back and be more of my childhood years. And then it's going to come through and the people that I've met since I've got home and different stories. And then at the end, it's going to wrap up with my brother's story, which I think is really powerful. It's a mental health struggle, and he is the reason I wrote that book. So, yeah.
All right. So if you guys are watching now, like I am blown away by Portia. She has such an incredible story. She's just such an amazing person, right? And if you guys are looking for something, if you're looking for a book, if you're looking for something, if you need some inspiration, if you're looking for somebody to just latch on to, go grab these books, Living Louder and Born to be Brave. You guys will not regret it, I promise. And make sure you're following Portia on all of her social media channels. I will put her links down below on this episode. I think you'll be blown away the same way that I am. So, Portia, I appreciate you coming out.
Thanks, Todd.
And until next time, we'll see you guys.
Holla.